The most epic battles of the Bible, Part 3. The end will surprise you. The last battle, Lucifer was a protective cherub. He had everything. He would be the seal of perfection and beauty. He was perfect in all his ways. He was the most beautiful angel in heaven. However, everything could not be so perfect, because Lucifer began to feel proud and superior to others. From there, he began to desire the glory and power of God. This pride led him to start a great rebellion, in which, with the help of his angel, followers would try to take the throne from God. But God, with the archangel Michael, expelled him from heaven and condemned him to live in the shadows. God took away all his divine attributes, and he was thrown into the depths of the abyss. And Lucifer went from being the beautiful cherub to become the horrible Satan, as mentioned in the sacred scriptures. And now his only purpose is to seduce people to fall into sin. And in the end, time Satan, with the help of his followers, will face the archangel Michael and his heavenly army. Comment and follow me for part 4.
So what is the problem with this video? The first problem with this video is that the majority of the information that is presented here, you will not find in your Bible. If you go and scour your Bible, you will find little tidbits of quotes here and there that you will then extrapolate into this story about a war in heaven with Lucifer being identified as this beautiful angel that fought against God. But when you look in your Bible, the word Lucifer is only used about 2 or 3 times. The first time the word Lucifer is used to describe the king of Babylon, who, if he did not humble himself, that he will fall from the sky in the way that the planet Venus falls from the sky at sunrise, or looks as if it's falling from the sky at sunrise. So it is a reference to the planet Venus and not your Lucifer, not a being, not the Satan, not the devil, not the serpent. Then it is used again to describe Jesus in Revelations as the one who illuminates, the shining one. And so it is not even used towards this beautiful angel that will fall from the sky, or the one who will bring the illumination, the freedom. So Lucifer is not described in the Bible in any form or fashion the way that this storybook tells it. What it is talking about is the fact that there was a book called, or books of Enoch, that were very widely read all the way up until about 1000 CE, that the books of Enoch was widely read. It is still read in your Armenian Orthodox and your Ethiopian Orthodox churches because it is part of their Bibles. It fell out of favor with the Romans in around, or the Orthodox Christians who were the Romans, in around the 390 time frame, when they were determined to be books of heresy and not be something that is authentic, or at minimum disputable books. But they were still widely read and widely favored. So when the writers of all of your books decided to make certain quotes, what they quoted was the books of Enoch. So this is where your entire war in heaven comes from. It is also, you can find it in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So your Nazarenes also made mentions of this war in heaven, to which they were pulling from the Slavonic book of Enoch, which is the main one that talks about this war in heaven, where one of the archangels decided to war against God. And so I got to ask the question, if they were quoting it, why isn't it in your book? Even some of your disputable books, which Irenaeus, as well as Jerome and others, when they compiled their list of books that should be in the canon, the book of Jude, chapter 9 especially, but the book of Jude was a disputed book, that meaning that it may or may not fit the criterion of what the authenticity, authorship, and did it fit with what the church wanted the people to believe. But in Jude chapter 9, it talks about there again, this angel that falls from heaven, the fallen ones, and how they will be chained up in the abyss on the earth. And it's relevant to Job, and Job also has a slight description of this in the book of Job, of how this fallen one had was fallen, this angel who was fighting and flying around in the sky, had fallen into the abyss after it warred against God and went against God, and that Jude rebuked this angel. So what we have in a disputed book that finally made it into your canon is a reference to the books of Enoch, whether we're looking at Enoch 1, where it talks about this war in heaven, and or we're looking at the Slavonic book of Enoch as well, which talks about this war in heaven. And Enoch doesn't identify this angel as Lucifer uh, in his book. He does not. He is not referred to as Lucifer at all. He is simply called Santanel, or you can say it's Satanel. You'll probably say it's Satanel if you read it. I just say Satanel. But he was with 200 watchers who were supposedly where their original job was to watch over men. This is the fan fiction that was written based on Enoch and him being able to going up into heaven, and they didn't have much information about him. And in this book, he talked about the watchers who came down, and they were the ones who were the sons of God who started marrying the daughters of man and then produced the Nephilim. But this story also encompasses some of the aspects from the Sumerian story of when Marduk decided he wanted to marry a human because Enlil would not give up his reign as the Satan over earth, meaning the administrator. In the Sumerian language, Satan means administrator, as the administrator over earth, and it was his time to rule. So Marduk decided to marry a human, and after he married, and you'll find this in the Babylonian writings as well, when he decided to marry a human, there were supposedly 200 Igigi in one story, or just Anunnaki in another, who were stationed on Mars and as a waypoint for moving the gold to Nibiru. And when they saw this, and because they didn't have any women, they didn't have any wine, they were just working, they came down and raided Marduk's wedding and captured 200 women. Um, they were led by, I think maybe Azrael. No, I can't think of the person's name that they were led by, who didn't want to do it unless everybody took a blood oath with him that if they're ever punished, that they all will receive that punishment. But they weren't punished in the Sumerian story because they referred to the fact that Marduk was allowed to marry his human wife, so they should then be able to marry their human wives. And they begin to teach them how to make tools and the technology of the Anunnaki. And then that's when Enlil was like, nah, we can't have this shit, and decided to destroy all of them. So, as part of this whole flood thing, to let them all die. That story was integrated into your Hebrew story in order for them to have their own antiquity, and to have their own history. And they just manipulated the text to fit into their God. But the Book of Enoch was not acceptable. It was not something that was canonized, but it is highly quoted within your Bible, and you get this whole story of this war in heaven based on that, to which the story is basically bunk at the end of the day. Um, because it's just man not understanding nature and fantasizing as to why certain things happen and why certain people are bigger than other people, and so on and so forth. And Lucifer is also, if somebody's going to put it, not the beast, to which is talked about in Revelations. So we're going to talk about that in another video, where we're going to talk about the different beasts that I'm about to make right now. So look for that video as well. And always remember, have a great day. And you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.